Hi, and welcome to Book Impressions. In this episode, I will be featuring the book, His Best Friend's Little Sister. It's in His and Hers, Book 1, out of 4 books. And it was written by Vivian Wood. And as you can see, I did purchase this back on May the 8th of 2022, and I did read it. And when we get to the reviews, I will tell you what I gave it as a review. But let's look at our cover. And I think it's a really good cover. If I had any complaint about this cover, and this is just my own personal preference, I don't know if I would have went with this particular font. I like the little sister, but this is kind of like, it has a scribble look that in some ways you have to really study it to know what the words are. But other than that, I think it's a great cover. I love the photo that drew me to the book. Although I have to admit something right now. When you go and read this story, the description inside the book doesn't really fit this photo. And when I see that, that kind of bothers me. But let's look at our blurb. It says, she's my best friend's little sister with a body made for sin. I'm a big burly ex-soldier that shouldn't even give her a second glance. She's decades younger than me and seductive without trying. I'm struggling through burnout and hiding out from the entire world. When we both hide out at the same cabin far away from everyone else, a mutual attraction blooms between us. I know it's wrong, but it's impossible to stop touching her once I start. And worse, I don't want to let her go. Okay, and we can see that the book is currently free on Kindle, and it does have, I don't know if it has an audiobook, but the paperback is $12.99. It has 1,819 ratings, so there's a lot of people who have read this book. Let's see. Overall, it's got a 4.2 out of 5 star, which is pretty good. 5 star is 54%, 4 star 24%, and I always say to put those two numbers together to know whether you want to read this book, which would be 78, which is a good score. 3 stars is 14%, 2 stars 4%, and 1 star 3%. So let's read some of our headlines under the 5 stars. And see why 54% thought this book was the ultimate greatest book they've read. Okay, 5 stars. A damaged retired Navy SEAL and his best friend's little sister, who grown into a beautiful woman with a body made for sin. I'm not sure what went on. His best friend's little sister. Another winner with a tinge of forbidden from a favorite author. Author must write that, I guess. Great book. Melt your heart sizzling romance. Good modern day love story. This is a great romance. I recommend this. Super sweet and hot and all in one package. Great read. So you can see these 5 stars. These people really love this book. Let's look at 4 stars, which I oftentimes say they could be 5 stars. And this is the score I gave it was 4 stars. And it wasn't that I didn't like this book. I actually really liked the book. I thought it was really good. My only problem was that sometimes I felt like the pacing was kind of slow at times. I felt like the book needed to pick up. It had moments where I felt like, yeah, I could remove this along. And that's how I was feeling. But at the same token, the story ended up being a really good book. There's kind of like a PTSD sub-story in it, so that's what made it really, and actually a very good story. Says, thank the heavens for a blizzard. Yeah, they have a blizzard. Cute, fluffy, and steamy. Love wins. And love you can't deny. Ellie and Henry give you all the feels. Wow. And Alpha and Snow, oh my. How things change when people grow up. Sweet and steamy, sweet. Okay, let's look at 3 stars, which is 14%. Usually those 3 stars are people who they can't decide whether they liked it or not, or they might have liked something about it, but they didn't like something about it. That's where they usually hang out. Says, best friend's little sister age gap. Some steamy confusion. I guess they were confused. Okay. Trapped with temptation. Nice mix. This one says, I like the mix of different tropes. The couple was sweet, but the story seemed a bit shallow, although there was substance to go deeper. And I kind of have to agree with that. It says, pretty good and complete. Entertaining, sweet, and domineering. Average read. Okay. Let's look at our 2 stars. And 2 stars have 4%. And these are people, well, they don't want to give it a 1 star. They thought there was something decent to at least talk about. His best friend's little sister review. Okay. Disappointing. Says the story wasn't realistic. The sister of the president is getting online death threats and is staying in a cabin in the mountains. The Secret Service is staying in a caretaker's cabin nearby, while the heroine is in the cabin with no extra security. Wi-Fi that isn't reliable and only a landline to rely on. Yet the author doesn't mention any of this later on while focusing on the relationship of Ellie and Henry. You know, that is true. I never really gave that much thought. It says, not for me. The book held my interest for about the first half, then went downhill. That's when the pacing slowed down. When it started reading like soft porn, it totally lost me. Yeah, there's a certain amount of sex in this book. So if you're not big on that, you may not want to read this. But if you like your fair share of sex in a book, you probably love this book. Good book, but it had its flaws. Really a carrot. Okay. Great premise, not so great execution. Okay. Could have been great. Sadly, this didn't fulfill its promise. Just a vague and plausible plot in between sections. All the development that could have been interesting were either not explored or trivialized. Okay. Yeah, that's why I couldn't give it a 5 star. I had to give it a 4. Pacing caused some problems in this book, but the story, like I said, was good. 1 star. This is usually people who read that don't read in this genre. It says high school read. Didn't like it. That's how you can tell they don't read in this genre. When somebody says, I don't like it, it's bad, that's how you have to look at it. Not worth my time. No connection. Stupid book. This book was so incredibly stupid it did not make sense at all, and it was extremely boring. Now that I disagree with. I will not be continuing this series or reading any other books by this author. Had potential, but I didn't like it. Couldn't suspend my belief that far. No thanks, didn't like it. Yeah, this is a series, but I have to tell you, it's a standalone. There are 4 books in this series. Let's look at our author, Vivian Wood. But you can read each individual book as a standalone. It kind of deals with various other people. So if you read this book, you don't have to keep continuing reading it. I mean, you could, but you don't have to. Okay, here's Vivian Wood's author page. She doesn't have a photo here, but I see her right here. I guess she must have some kind of a blog or a website. That has to be her. She has several books up here, and there's My Best Friend's Little Sister. So she obviously writes a lot of these types of stories from what I'm understanding. Okay, let's read about her. About Vivian Wood. Vivian Wood is a USA Today, Wall Street Journal, and Amazon top 20 best-selling author. She specializes in writing about damaged billionaires, ruined princesses, mouthy ballerinas, and anti-heroes that are oh so deliciously bad. Vivian likes to write about troubled, deeply flawed alpha males and the fiery kick-ass women who bring them to their knees. Vivian's lasting motto in romance is a quote from a favorite song, "Soulmates Never Die." Be sure to follow Vivian through her Vivian Fixin' mailing list or on her IG to keep up with all the awesome giveaways, author videos, ARC opportunities, and more. And so she has a place where you can get her newsletter. And she has a lot of books. I'm seeing them all here. And it goes on for 3 pages. So she obviously must be quite the writer because she is a USA Today and Wall Street Journal and Amazon top 20 author. And like I said, I have to admit this was a pretty good book. If I had any complaint, it was at times I felt the pacing in the middle of the book slowed down, but then it picked back up and I thought it was really good. I don't know if I totally liked the ending. Maybe I do need to read another book, but I thought it was still a good book as a standalone. Would I continue the series? I haven't decided yet. I might. I just haven't decided that yet. It's hard to say. You know, I have so many books to read, but she's a pretty good author. I have to give her credit for that. Anyway, what I will do is I will put his best friend's little sister down in the description, and if you want to come over here and look at that book, or if you want to come and look at some of these other books, and with all that in mind, until next time, this is Book Impressions signing off.